So I think an interesting conversation can be had that, is it possible the NBA, GMs and things like that, are working against the Lakers because they don't want them to end up with Anthony Davis? We saw a rumor not long ago, as in 24 hours ago, that suggested Danny Ainge has been in the Pelicans' ear saying, just wait and I can give you a better offer. Even with all the stuff with Anthony Davis's dad coming out. And then we have Gregg Popovich and this rumor that not only was he refusing to trade Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers a year ago, or not a year ago, the offseason, but now he's also telling the Pelicans and Dell Demps, don't cave into these guys. If you're going to trade away your dude, then you've got to get a haul and then some. And based on another rumor, it seems like that's what the Pelicans attempted to get with 4 first-round picks, a bunch of second-round picks, and then all the Lakers' young dudes and a couple of role players thrown in there as well, right? I know that they would include like Solomon Hill or whatever back, but still, that's a lot, you know? As someone who probably is closer to the side of give them what they want more so than be conservative, even I was like, geez, that 4 first-round picks, my goodness. So is it possible that NBA teams and GMs are kind of conspiring against the Lakers so they can't just do whatever they want? Well, here's what I think. Number one, I remember listening to a podcast. It was probably The Low Post back a couple years ago. Actually, not a couple years ago. A couple months ago, after the Lakers got LeBron. And whoever it was that was talking on this podcast, they had connections around the league to agents and GMs and things like that. And they brought up the idea that GMs in the NBA feel like the Lakers didn't really earn LeBron James. Sure, they didn't do a horrible job of getting young players and all that, but they didn't do an amazing job either. And the reason why LeBron went there is because it's the Lakers. And everybody else had the idea of, well, what the hell? I mean, if we just ran our franchise okay, not great for the last few years, LeBron wouldn't even think about us. So perhaps that, if that is true, immediately creates the idea of, well, screw those guys, you know? Then we've had the past couple of years where, while I don't think Magic Johnson has done anything wrong, really, because everybody nowadays is tampering, everybody's talking to agents, everybody's doing little wink-wink deals to players, and everybody's talking with agencies and building up those relationships. It is perhaps still possible that Magic Johnson went a little too far just because, you know, he had that moment on that one late night show talking about Paul George and all that, and perhaps it kind of annoyed NBA GMs. And so now that we've had the Paul George thing, the Kawhi Leonard thing, and now we've got the Anthony Davis thing, yeah, maybe it's possible that NBA general managers are basically saying, no, screw you. We're not just going to let you be the Lakers and get the best player in the league and then also the, 5th or 4th or 6th or whatever the hell you consider Anthony Davis to be. And so they're doing their damnedest to say, well, if it's going to happen, then it's not going to happen on the Lakers' terms, and we're also going to go a little extra because we just don't like you. Now, I think another reason why teams would want to do this, or have this mentality, is because they don't want the NBA to go too far into being a players' league where it's basically the player and his agent decide where that guy's going to end up by the time he's got 2 years left on his contract, and then they send out, you know, some under-the-table message to the team he wants to go to, which is basically, hey, start making your moves now, because assuming you're not a disaster, there's a decent chance that I'm going to be on your team in a couple years. I can understand why owners and GMs do not want that to happen, because at that point, you're kind of stealing the power away from front offices. Now, there is a counter to that, which is just don't suck as a front office and players will want to go to your team. I mean, the Pelicans, while they have had some bad luck and some injuries over the years, they've also barely gotten any of their draft picks right. And they made some bad signings with Tyreek Evans, and they tried way too hard to be good right away rather than at least being bad for one more season to give themselves another chance at the lottery for another star with Anthony Davis. So it's not like they did that great of a job. And I think it's totally fine for teams to make moves in preparation for that. But even with all that being said, I can still see why front offices are like, yeah, we don't really want Anthony Davis deciding his fate in terms of influencing the way that everybody else is going to operate, right? In terms of trades, free agency signings, and that sort of thing. Of course, a free agent can do whatever the hell they want to, but yeah, I get it. I can see why that would bother some front offices, especially ones that are perhaps not as attractive to free agents and all that stuff. So yeah, now as far as what does this mean for the league going forward, I mean, I think this has just all been building up for a few years. I mean, I've mentioned the players already between AD right now, Paul George, who had that I want to go to the Lakers thing, Kawhi, who was doing all his weird stuff with his uncle and everything. I mean, this is where the NBA's at now. And I think what's kind of nuts is, who was it? The Players Association, or it was the just the owners and all that. The collective bargaining agreement has those super max contracts, which was the attempt at none of this happening, right? Where Kawhi Leonard says, I want to stay in San Antonio. Paul George says, I want to stay with the Pacers. Anthony Davis says, I want to stay with the Pelicans. None of this is happening. Players do not give a crap about the extra money or extra year or whatever it is. And I don't really know what they can do in order to change this, because these guys are making so much money. Like, who cares? I mean, if it's like, oh no, I'm going to make $200 million or I'm going to make $240 million, but if I pick the $200 million, my life is going to be a lot better. Like, of course you're going to go with that option, right? So, yeah, I don't know what the NBA can really do to change this. So it seems like the GMs are taking it upon themselves to be like, nah, man, you guys, the players are not going to dictate everything. You guys can certainly have your influence on where you want to go and all that, but if it's way too much to your side, then what the hell are we even doing here at that point? So, yeah, I can see it. Even so, Danny Ainge should probably get hit with a tampering charge, and Gregg Popovich should probably get hit with a tampering charge as well. So, that's where I'm at on all this stuff. The NBA is just wild, man. I mean, I don't know if it's possible nowadays for us to go 2 or 3 seasons without a big-time player getting moved.